After I watched the Mighty Nein, the animated series, I had no choice. I had to go back and I had to start Critical Role Campaign 2, The Mighty Nein, the actual play. What did I learn? Goodness, I miss playing Dungeons and Dragons every week. Oh my goodness, this campaign. What have we done? What has Critical Role done to me? They have made me want to play more D&D. I'm not mad. I'm very happy about it, actually. This was a true delight. I'm so glad that I did this, and I want your folks' opinions down in the comments below, because part of me wants to listen to the podcast version because I feel like it'll probably be more abbreviated. It'll just be more of the gameplay. And obviously there's also ad breaks and stuff, which I can skip. I skip a little bit, but I honestly am interested in the old Geek and Sundry ads. I think it's really interesting. And I know some of the people that are part of Geek and Sundry, so I see some of the people that I know in them, and it's very fun. It's very fun because I met them only in the last few years. So this is obviously older content that they made, and I just feel like it's very fun to me to go back and check it out. And I also honestly want to go back and watch some of these older shows as well over on Geek and Sundry. There's so much good content over there that I just haven't watched, that I've heard about, but that I wasn't watching. And now I'm like, why wasn't I watching all of this, 7 years ago when all of it was going on at that time? I could have been. I was into all of this stuff back then. I'm still into it now, and it's taken me this long, but here we are. This campaign was a true delight to start, and the thing that I'm in between is whether or not I listen to the podcast episodes or whether or not I watch it, because I do find that just seeing everyone's facial reactions is a delight. And I feel like Sam has so many visual things going on whenever I watch the clips that I think I can't miss whatever Sam Riegel's gonna do. I feel like I need to see it. So I want to know what your opinions are. Should I listen? Should I watch? What do you think is the best way for me to go through this? Because we're definitely going through this after watching our first episode. And I think my takeaway is how much fun everyone is having at this table. I love the way that we're introduced to everyone. I love that we can tell that everyone put thought into these characters before they sat down and considered their story up to this point, how they got here. It's something that's also really important as an actor, is to consider, the time before you arrived. And I know that, I don't know, actually, I guess is what I should say, how much was put into Session Zero or not, because obviously I can't watch that episode. And I would love to go and listen to what they do for a Session Zero or what that looks like. For me, when I'm playing D&D, my Session Zero is usually about establishing any prior relationships, which it seems like they've discussed, anything about any action that has happened right before, and obviously a little bit about the backstory of a character. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to write a whole novel about the backstory of your character. Usually for me, that's a few pages of notes, of story that I will write, like, maybe like 3 pages that I'll put. And then from there, we kind of build it out, working with the GM. And I think it's important for your game master, your GM, or your DM, if you prefer dungeon master, to sit down with you and kind of have an idea of where you're coming from so that you can really nicely weave in the story of the players to the story at the table where we are here together. That is my favorite thing. Those have been some of my favorite games I've played. I've talked about my experience playing with a little group that I used to play with who were lovely, known as Roll for Damage, and they still have a YouTube channel up if you ever want to go and watch some of that. And that is honestly my favorite thing to do. I just think it's really fun when the character stories blend into the main story. And I want to say another takeaway that I have from watching this first episode is how amazing Matt is at dungeon mastering. He is such a good DM. My goodness, the level of performance, the different voices, the different NPCs, the way that he brings to life the imagery of what is happening. I completely understand why Critical Role is the be-all and end-all of D&D RPG actual plays. because they are amazing performers, amazing voice actors, and amazing storytellers. It's not just about the way that they play the game. It is about the language that some of them also use. I mean, Matt's language is beautiful. It's so descriptive and it paints this beautiful picture of where you are in the world. And I absolutely adore that. I also will say that after watching this episode, I have some favorite characters, which might be a little bit different from my experience with the animated show. I think I was saying at the end of season 1 of The Mighty Nein that my favorite character was Caleb, I think I said. I also still really love Bo in the animated series, but at the table, there is a clear winner. And I think it's gotta be Laura Bailey as Jester. I love Laura Bailey as Jester. And what I love about her Jester is that she is a character that is ready to have fun. She's such a trickster and she just says yes to so many things. She has a compulsion and she goes with it. She has an instinct and she follows it. And she doesn't wait. A lot of the times when I've played D&D with groups, there are moments where you can fall into this pattern of inactivity, where you will sit at the table and you as your characters will discuss, well, should we do this? Well, I think we should be going over here. Well, I don't know, guys. I think maybe, could we do this? Could we do that? Maybe we go over there. Maybe we talk to that person. And, your dungeon master has to remind you that time exists and be like, there's a loud rumbling in the distance. And I love the fact that Jester is the type of character that doesn't wait, that just makes things happen. It makes the game very exciting to watch, and it gives you momentum. And momentum is really important because otherwise you're going to have an 8-hour session where nothing happens, which isn't very exciting. Also, can we just talk about the pacing of this playthrough? It is so amazing. It is so good because that momentum is constantly moving forward and everyone takes a part of that. Everyone takes an initiative to moving the story along in some way or some fashion. And when they get stuck, they help each other. And that is something I also love. I think it's just so fun to watch a group of people that love sitting at the table and love playing together play a game. It's a delight. Jester is my favorite, but I have another favorite as well. My second favorite is definitely Not. Sam as Not is so fun, and I just love when Sam already is playing against type. I loved the idea of Sam just completely tarnishing the memory of Scanlan from Vox Machina when he takes this moment as Not where he chooses to sing in the middle of a battle to try to get the, I think it's a devil toad, a demon toad, the devil toad or the demon toad to try to calm them down after seeing, the little dwarven girl sing and is like, I'm gonna try to do that, and rolls for performance, even though I believe Sam has disadvantage on it, I think because of the stats. I like when people play against type and just play into the moment of what would my character do, not considering what are my best stats or what are my weakest stats, just having fun at the table. We're here to have a fun time. Ideally, don't die, but honestly, if you die, that's where the story goes. And I love how everyone is afraid of everything and yet is trying to make the best moves, but also play in character. To me, my favorite way to play Dungeons and Dragons is always character first. I don't care what my stats are. I want to play character first. So I want to think about in this moment with this character, who they are, what would they do? It doesn't mean that you can't consider your strengths. I just mean emotionally in the moment, where am I at? What are my choices? And I think that many of the people at the table are doing that, and it's very, very fun to watch. Oddly enough, I think Caleb's actually my least favorite at the actual play right now. Oh no! I do still like Caleb, but I feel like he feels a bit like a wet blanket at this point in the campaign. And I'm sure I'm going to warm up to him more as we get into his backstory. But yeah, that was interesting. Also, seeing the differences, obviously, from the table to the screen is, I think, always so interesting. The way that the group comes together. And in fact, I gotta say, I kind of like what they did with Yasha more in this first session. I love the idea of her being at the circus with Molly. I love the idea of how they're all in these kind of three little groups. So we have Yasha and Molly, we have Not and Caleb, and then we have Ford and Jester and Beauregard, all as like these little groups together. I think that is really cool how everyone comes together and forms a fun group, a kind of ramshackle group of just people that happen to find each other, and their fates kind of just get intertwined by this chaos that happens at the circus. The role for initiative in that circus was so amazing. I loved it so much. I loved that the way that we leave off this first session also has everyone pumped to keep playing, how everyone kind of wants to continue from that point, and how it leaves us with Yasha disappearing into the night. I just love how Yasha was part of the circus and then at the first opportunity takes a moment to slink away, and we don't really know what's going on there. I think they did a good job though of with the show, even though they went a different sort of route with her character and the way that she's introduced. I like that they built that mystery in that first season perfectly for her, because there is that element of mystery. And it's interesting because I was trying to think of, what would be a good place to cap these for when I do these kind of reaction review videos, these rants where I tell you about all the thoughts that are going through my mind after watching however many sessions. I was wondering, when do I end that? And I thought it would be cool to measure it with the episodes, until of course I remembered I can't really do that because the first few episodes are basically session 0, which don't exist in the actual play. There's no session 0 for me to watch. I wish I could watch the session 0, and I don't know what other information there is that exists on that. So please, for those of you that are my Critical Role mega fans that I know are here watching this content, let me know down in the comments if there is any cool interview videos or any discussions where Critical Role does talk about their process, does talk about their session 0, because I would love to hear more about it. I personally love all of that stuff because when I play with my other group weekly, where we do indie TTRPGs over on Lies You'll Enjoy, on that channel, we always do our kind of character building or world building before we get into our session, because typically they're one-shots. They're little solo stories. So the first 30 minutes to an hour is us building the world or building the characters, or both, and then diving into the story. And sometimes we do a session 0 as a separate session, so it'll become kind of a 2-part depending on how much world building or character building is required for whatever game we're playing. But I really love that element of RPGs. I just think it's really fascinating. So I would love to hear more about that. Overall, I loved watching this. It took me a little while. I kind of watched it in parts here and there, but I will be continuing on. And I would love to hear if there is a specific way that you would suggest that I break these up. I would love to hear about that. I'd love to hear about, more about the session 0 process, if anyone knows about that. And, what else would you like to see from me in regards to Critical Role content? I'm going to be going back and I'm going to be rewatching Vox Machina and doing new videos on that. I might do some reactions either here for my members or maybe on my Patreon. So stay tuned for more information on that. But this has been a true delight, and I just love that, I am coming back into the world of D&D through this and getting to reconnect with you, with the community of Dungeons and Dragons. It is one of my first loves within the nerdy things in my life, and it has been a true treat. So thank you so much for being a part of my journey, and thank you for watching this video. You don't know how much it means to me. I just feel so seen, and it is so wonderful. So thank you. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. What was your first reaction as well to Critical Role when you first watched an actual play? And what did you first watch? When did you first come in? I want to hear about that. My editor is also starting on campaign 3, so I love that we are watching different campaigns at the same time as we're going in, and I think that's going to be really fun to compare notes. And I honestly can't wait to go back and even watch the Vox Machina campaign. I'm going to watch everything Critical Role, I think, now. This one session has me hooked. My goodness. Uh-oh. I'm a fan. Something that I didn't know about this is that I would start watching and then I wouldn't be able to stop. No one warned me about that with Critical Role, yet here we are. Welcome back, everyone. We're here to talk about Critical Role Campaign 2, Sessions 2, 3, and 4. And I really kept wanting to keep going, but I'm trying to do this. This is my goal. I'm trying to do this where every time we end an arc where there's going to be a level up, that is how I want to structure these. So we're here to talk about, after session 1, where we go and my thoughts on the continuing journey. Before we get into this, I want to know, what is your favorite element of Dungeons and Dragons? Are you someone that loves the game for story? Do you love combat? Do you love creating characters? Let me know what your favorite element of gameplay is down in the comments. In true D&D form, there's a lot of, well, maybe we should do this, and then exploring a whole thing that leads nowhere. And I love how the whole time they're doing this investigation on what happened at the circus, they basically end up avoiding the circus because they don't want to go back there because they think it'll look suspicious. And in the end, they find out, you got to go back to the circus. Because that's where all the evidence is. So I love that there's a whole investigation period where they went into the town and they tried to question everyone about the man that was the victim in the attack, and it just leads nowhere. I also have to say, my favorite relationship so far at this point in my journey is Nott and Caleb. I love them so much. I just love how much they work on protecting each other and they stick together no matter what, and how both of them have also kind of warmed up to the group at large. And Yasha came back. I'm glad I went. I was going to do this video for session 2 and 3, and I'm glad I went one more because then I got to see Ashley coming back as Yasha, and that was amazing. It was so nice, even though I think she's going to be gone again for a bit. But what can I say? She's a busy lady. She's in demand, Ashley Johnson. I have never laughed so hard, maybe in all my life. Some of these sessions are so funny. The banter that we have. I think Jester, obviously with Laura Bailey, but also Nott with Sam, are probably a couple of the funniest characters in it. But everyone together is honestly just really funny. And I love watching people try to do things that are these whole plans, try to go beyond what their level is. Although, to be fair, with the levels that they're at, they have accomplished some pretty impressive things. The fact that they were even able to take on this devil toad, I thought was really impressive. And there's also just some situations where things don't go as planned, as you would expect, where, for example, when Bo is arrested, I loved that whole part because it's just Bo struggling. I have to say, in comparison to the Mighty Nein, the show, I thought that the show more closely mirrored the campaign. And when I was reviewing it, a lot of you told me in the comments, actually, kind of none of this happens in the campaign. So get ready for none of this to be where we're headed, kind of. And yeah, I see that now. I see that. We definitely go down some different paths. I think that the animated series is kind of a more tighter version of the campaign, whereas the campaign, though, has all of these fun little character moments that we don't necessarily get in the animated series. For example, one of the things that I was hoping was going to come up in the show that I'm like, this never came up, and that's kind of sad, is Trevor's Ford's falchion, I guess I should say, that Trevor keeps talking about. And everyone, every time he mentions the falchion, they're like, falchion. Everyone loved saying falchion so much at this table. And because of the falchion, I actually looked up a little bit of lore in advance on the Sword of Fathoms, which is the item that Ford has, and how it kind of levels up as time goes on, which I think is really, really cool. So I can't wait to see more of that. I think just seeing the way that everyone is kind of coming into their characters now and figuring out how they work, The fact that Jester also loves to remind everyone that she's the cleric. I'm the cleric. I am the cleric now. That's a thing that I absolutely adore. And there's so many fun little moments like that. Or when they're talking about stuff, kind of planning things out, not necessarily in character, but they just keep their accents. Like, Caleb is always Caleb. There is no moment when we leave being Caleb at the table. Liam is like in full Caleb mode for the whole sessions. And whenever he does, on the off chance, it happens I think maybe twice I've heard it happen, that Liam has gone back to just being Liam for a second. It's so jarring for me because I'm so used to him being fully Caleb in this. I will say, I can already kind of see a little bit what people are talking about, though, how Caleb has these monologues that go on and on and on. And I can already foresee that I think Caleb's going to be one of the characters that I both love, but also sometimes loathe, just because he loves to gab. He's a gabber, and I love that for him. Honestly, I think there is a lot to love about the character, and I love the way that Liam plays him. But there are moments when even I, listening, I'm like, okay, Liam, let's move on. Let's move on. I love that in this version of the story, something that is different from the animated series, we didn't end up sacrificing Toya. I thought that was nice, and I thought it was really tragic. I was like, I can't believe they would go that dark. But that's not what ends up happening here. Toya does survive, and I feel like maybe in the show they made some changes, like with Gustav also not surviving, Toya not surviving, because I've heard that later in the campaign, we do come back to these characters who we kind of had our farewell to, but there's nothing really meaningful that happens with them. And I don't know if Toya ever will return. I like that we are leaving options open, though, for that. And Bo getting indoctrinated into the secret society at this point in the story was also really cool. I also loved Caleb and Not going to the bath together. I thought that was super cute. And the gnome has to be my favorite RPG NPC character that Matt has done. The gnome who owns the shop that Caleb and Not have gone back to a few times now. Matt does a really good job of letting people kind of go off during this journey and do their own little questing and then all come back together. He does a good job of taking us through what each person wants to do so that it never feels like a chore when we split the party. And I also love that he is willing to reward creative behavior at the table. So when someone has a plan to do something, if it's creative, he'll let them have an advantage or, give them some way that they can maybe make it happen if it really sounds creative. But there are so many things that you can tell that this group wants to do that they're thinking like, this is really important. And Matt's trying to be like, I mean, you can if you want, like, you don't really need to, but like, it's your game. So I'm going to let you guys go wherever you want. It's really that everyone is just having so much fun together. And as I said in my previous review for the first session, that is something that I just keep coming back to, that I keep having fun with whenever I'm watching it. I love hearing the way that people interact. I love the fact that they're not afraid to try things and they don't really hold off as much. They just go for it as a group. And even when the story is making these characters question whether or not they would stay together, the players are having so much fun that it kind of bleeds into the character's personality. And so when they do get to the end of this first quest and they defeat the Devil Toad and they've cleared their names, they're deciding if they want to continue together. And they go and get this amazing map and that Matt had made, which, by the way, is stunning. Can we just talk about for a second the production value of Critical Role? Because it is amazing. This is like a dream to me. If I were to do my RPG show with my friends and we were able to be in the same location every time, I would love to have something like this where we have all of these physical elements to what we're playing. And, we're all sitting there together on a set that's all well lit with cameras on everyone. It's it's chef's kiss. It's just great. And I'm so glad that through Geek and Sundry, they were able to find this group together. They were able to get this group of friends together that could play and actually have some production value behind it and create this amazing group that has now become a whole company. Like, when I think of what Critical Role has accomplished, it's honestly so inspiring to me as a streamer and as an avid lover of RPGs and someone that, you know, envisions doing RPG work as a professional as well. And I mean, I did an RPG campaign with Renegade. I did their G.I. Joe game and I was cast in that. And I have been cast in a few things along the way and gone to conventions to do RPG shows live. And I have a lot of fun doing that. And I would love to do more of that because it's just so great. And I love seeing the joy that it brings to the players and that they're able to give back to the audience. Something that I also love to watch, and I do watch it in passing, is all of the fan art. I just think the fan art is so delightful. I do have a few folks who sometimes make fan art when we do Lies You'll Enjoy, and it has been so lovely whenever anyone has made any fan art from any RPG that I've been a part of. I get so honored by it, and I can't imagine the amount of fan art that they get, knowing that you are impacting people's lives in that way and giving them this joy and helping them through hard times. That's really what art is here to do, right? Like, it's here to help people through the tough times. And it really is, I think, one of the most valuable things that humans can create, that humans can do. Entertainment, art, to create a connection between people at a time when there is so much going on in the world that feels so dark. It's been a beautiful escape for me, Critical Role, lately. And I mean, I try to keep everything nice and light and breezy here. I don't like to get into politics or the news because it really bums me out most days. But I just want to say thank you to Critical Role. I know I'm very late getting to this campaign, but thank you for being a light in those tough times for me as well. And I just started watching, you know? So overall, I thought this was a great start to our journey. I like this as a first story. I love the idea of our group of heroes deciding to stick together for now, see how it goes, do a trial run. But I think we are really building some beautiful bonds between all of these characters, and I can't wait to see how they grow and how they evolve and how they level up and what they choose and how they build the characters and how they expand their abilities in fights and their abilities in other problem-solving areas that are not always so physical. Although, I will be real, I do sometimes surprise myself at how much I enjoy the combat in this. I'm not usually a big combat player when it comes to RPGs, so for me, I really like things that are more story-focused, but a lot of the combat in this is also played so in character that it's really rewarding to watch. And I know you guys have had a lot of suggestions as to how I should watch this and what I should do. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what I've been doing. But before I do that, I want to talk about some of your amazing comments. Speaking of amazing communities, I have an amazing community here on YouTube, and I want to take some time to celebrate you guys because as much as Critical Role keeps me going, my amazing community on YouTube here also keeps me going. So let's talk about some of the suggestions and some of the comments that you guys had on my last video. Emily Nilsson writes, watch, but you don't have to have your eyes glued to the screen all the time. Myself, I've enjoyed every scrap of CR's content on my iPad by putting it next to me at breakfast while cooking or getting ready for the day and so on. Thus, I have easy access to the visuals, but also have time for everything else my life calls for. Sometimes I'm glued to the screen, sometimes I'm not. Have fun with C2, heart. Thank you, Emily. This is such a lovely comment. Thank you so much. And I hope I'm saying that right. It's Emily with an E, E-M-E-L-Y. But I'm going to say it Emily. So hopefully that's cool with you. This is exactly how I watch it, actually. I have my iPad right here. So I have my iPad. Oh, I don't know if we can show this Babstar sticker on the front. It's kind of spicy. This is my iPad. And I do watch a lot of things. Just literally, I mean, right now I'm reading some comics, but I do just watch it just straight up on my iPad. And that is my go-to as well. I usually watch Critical Role when I'm getting ready in the morning, when I'm getting ready to go to bed, when I'm winding down, throughout the day while I'm doing other things. And I just have my iPad near me. And if I'm away, if I need to like step away from my iPad, I'll put earbuds in so I can at least keep listening. And then if there's something that I think sounded cool to watch visually, I will sometimes go back. So yeah, that has been my approach, and I have not sped it up. I've just been watching all of it. JDSO or says, you will not be disappointed if all you do is watch for Sam's stuff and how Jester uses the sending spell 100%. Oh my goodness. I love that Jester actually also, that Laura's always thinking of her blessing of the trickster, and every time she's trying to remember. I will say, I think Laura does a really good job of playing her characters and really thinking through her sheet and everything she's supposed to be doing. Like, everyone will forget things from time to time. And that is one of the things that I think is so daunting for players playing D&D for the first time. And even me, an experienced player playing for years, whenever I get back into a campaign and I'm playing with friends, I'm always like, man, I hope I remember how to play. I'm always worried that I'm going to mess it up. But we're all humans, and sometimes we forget things, and that is normal. And don't worry, your party will be there to remind you. Your DM will be there to remind you. Everybody's got each other's back. That's what it means to be part of an adventuring party. Paul Guy says, while there were a bunch of interviews where the players talked about their session zeros, among so much else, but then someone close to the cast had to be an absolute monster to one of the cast. Oh no. So CR took every video he was in off the channel. But basically, they each did character creation with Matt. Then he ran their level 1 sessions in the small groups to establish some initial relationships and to explore the characters a bit. Wow, that's a really cool process. And I'm so sad that, you know, they had to kind of remove everything because of someone being terrible. That sucks. But that does make sense how they are running it, that they did some work off camera before and some prep before they sat down, because they just have such a good handle, I think, on who the characters are at start. Eero Salonen says, podcast version is good, but cast reactions and shenanigans enhances some of the epic moments quite a lot. I am interested to see more reactions and breakdowns for campaign 2. Oh, well, thank you, Eero. I am happy to be here talking about my reaction to it, my feelings on it as I go through. And yeah, if you want some more breakdowns on this, let me know. I can make some notes as I'm going through, kind of talk about some of the story beats. I try not to worry too much about that because I am a meticulous note taker, and I am like this when I play D&D too. I take a lot of notes. And so when I do breakdown videos, I tend to get swept up in the details, and my editor will be like, girl, you talked about this one interaction that was just a conversation about a shoe for 10 minutes. What are you doing? So I'm trying to not go overboard with it. But if you guys want more of that, please do let me know in the comments below. And I think that's all I have for this one. Thank you so much for all your comments. They're all so wonderful. I really need to spend some time going through and responding to everyone because, wow, there's a lot of love from the community. And I am just so happy to be here with you and to be watching and to be discussing. It has been a true delight for me. The biggest problem with Critical Role is that Matt Mercer is becoming my favorite character. And by that I mean every NPC he plays is becoming my favorite. Welcome back, everyone. We're here to talk about Critical Role, Campaign 2, The Mighty Nein. Yes, I have been continuing my watch along. It's taken me a minute. There were a lot of episodes that I had to watch, and they're long, and I don't fast forward them. I know some of you suggested that I do that down in the comments, and I appreciate that suggestion. I appreciate people giving me tips on like ways that I can watch and get through it in a timely fashion. However, I can't watch things sped up. That just doesn't work for me personally. So I've just been watching it as it's going, and it has been such a fun journey. I'm crashing out with how much I love this show. But there is a lot for us to get into because a lot has happened since I've seen you last. So where do we even begin? Let's start with Matt Mercer. Why don't we start there, since that's how I wanted to start this video. Matt Mercer is a true delight to watch DM,
And it's not just his amazing language, the way that he paints a scene and can take you, transport you to a different place in your mind. It is also the amazing, kooky, and unique characters that he crafts in this world that helps it to feel so real and so well defined. I did not expect to love a character more than the gnome that we saw in Trustenwald, who was the shopkeeper. I really loved the voice that he did for the gnome, and I thought, this is amazing. This is my favorite thing ever. How could it get better than this? Spoiler, it gets better than that. It gets so much better. So, coming into Zadesh, we have Ulysses, who I absolutely loved, who sadly, I don't think Ulysses was in the show. I am going to go back and rewatch season 1 after I go through all of Vox Machina again and do reviews for that and do reactions for each episode of the animated series. But Ulysses, I just thought he was great. And he is basically our tour guide who welcomes us into Zadesh when we arrive with the party. And I thought he was great. He's so fun. Then from there, though, we get to meet Pumat's soul. After our weary travelers decide the first thing they want to do in Zadesh is some late night shopping, which I also love how everyone just always wants to shop. Like, there's never a bad time for this group to shop. And what fun we do have in the shops. We've been to all kinds. We've been to a spicy bookshop at this point that I also really enjoyed, the shopkeeper that we met there. But Pumat's soul is the shopkeeper that really has my heart at this point. I thought watching Pumat in the show was amazing. No. You do not know the true delight of Pumat's soul until you've watched the live play and got to see everyone's reaction at the table when Matt pulls this character out of his hat, because the reaction of the group is amazing. And I love how even the characters that aren't there want to interact with him, even though they're not there. So like later on when they come in and when Molly first meets Pumat's soul, he gets to have a whole first interaction, but there's still this reaction that we get at the table where it is clear that everyone just wants to role play with Pumat. There is a lot of combat, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Combat's not my favorite part of D&D. There, I said it. My confession has been made. You know my secret. I'm not a big combat person. I do love playing through combat at a table, but I don't find it to be the most interesting part of a campaign. And here's why. Because combat, while it can lead to character development and building and evolution, a lot of the times it's more about, roll dice, does thing, hit thing, and these epic moments of battle, but they don't as directly translate to the relationships between the character or necessarily the world building. And that for me is a lot of what I love most about Dungeons and Dragons and what I love about role-playing games. I love story, I love character, I love world building. Those are my favorite things. So there are times when combat does some of that, but it is a little bit more rare, I would say. Even in a game that is as well played as the Mighty Nein campaign. That being said, even with the combat, we've gotten to have some really fun moments. I've got to also hear Matt Mercer play a spider shrieking, and that just gave me a whole new appreciation for what Matt Mercer can do. This is why he's my favorite. This is why he's my favorite player at the table. Because he can be Pumat's soul and also be a terrifying spider that can teleport around you. And wow, what a delight. But in the combat, we did also get introduced to some other cool characters who are even allies of the party. Our first guest star, we got Shikasta, who I absolutely adore, and I need more Shikasta in my life. And will we ever see Shikasta again? Please tell me yes. I hope so, because that was such a fun character to have at the table. And I just love seeing, honestly, everyone else in the group react to someone new and get excited to interact with this new character. I also miss Yasha a lot, and I hope that Ashley comes back soon because I need my girl here. Every time she comes in for a bit, I fall in love with her all over again, and then she's gone. She's gone. into the night. How mysterious. So I love all these mysterious characters that come in and out. I think what I most love about Shakosta's character is just the voice. There's a bit of a swagger with this character. The fact that the design choices are also so striking and bold. The idea of his big white fro, the fact that he's blind. He just seems like there's so much story to him that we've barely scraped the surface of, and I just want to know more about it. And I want to know more about the characters that we have at the table. And I love about watching the campaign so far is how you get to see the change from table to screen in terms of the show. Now, at this point, I'm almost basically done season 1 of the show. I think episode 14, we're going to be meeting the gentleman, is what I've heard. And the gentleman was obviously introduced to us in season 1 of Mighty Nein, the animated series. So I think after episode 14, I'll mostly have had the main story points that we got in the season 1 of the animated show. However, I am very curious to see where that goes. And I also feel that it's cool how they have taken parts of the campaign and just kind of rearranged and woven them. For example, the speech that we get from Caleb and Not. And can I just say, jokes about Matt Mercer aside, Not is my favorite character. Sam, oh man, he just makes characters that are so cool and have so much dimension to them. Not must be protected at all costs. I love Not so much. And I know I said that I love Not and Jester before, but I'm going to be real with you guys. Jester and Bo are kind of getting on my nerves a little bit right now. And I still love them. Don't get me wrong. I still love them. But they just have these moments where I find them to be a little bit grating, especially Bo right now. And I know there's reasons that these characters are this way. And I will say, when Jester went to the pillow trove and got that room and had to sit in the room alone, that really moved me. And it made me realize that, Jester is this friendly person who is trying to kind of make everyone laugh and make friends and makes mischief to hold on to her connection to the Traveler because she's such a lonely person. All of these characters are so beautifully broken. They have such great trauma. It's weird to think that somehow Molly Muck feels like the most stable character of the group. And when you think about Molly Muck and his story, based on what I know from the animated series, based on what I know from even the campaign thus far, the whole idea of how he grew up and then even being with a traveling circus, it's pretty wild that Molly's our moral compass here, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sure as we go on, I'm going to find bits of each character that I'm going to fall in love with, and I don't think that Not will be my favorite the entire way through. I'm not so blind as to imagine that every character is going to have their moment, and I'm going to fall in love with them at varying points through this campaign, because it's a long campaign. But at this point, I love Not, and I think what I love most about Not is just that you think you know who Not is, and then you don't. There's just so much depth to the character, and I love Not and Caleb's relationship. I love that they both are just these ride or die characters for each other, and no matter what, they have each other's back because they both see the potential in one another and believe in one another. It's such a beautiful and pure bond, to be honest with you, even though they have so much in their past I'm sure we're going to get into that's going to cause rifts. And we saw our first major rift of the group here in this chunk of the campaign when Caleb goes to take the scroll and later Ford says to Not, the fact that Caleb was going to do this, like, did you know about this? And it could have jeopardized us. And Not just says, the fact that you want to throw Caleb under the bus is pretty messed up, to be honest. Caleb is the one person that I basically love the most of all of you. And so you have to know when it comes to Caleb and I will always defend Caleb because you have it wrong. You might think that I am the child, but I am the parent in this relationship. And honestly, the way that this flows, they clearly have adjusted it for the animated series, because if you did it the way that the campaign does it, it wouldn't work as an animated show. It needs to be trimmed up. It needs to be sort of reordered, and I understand that. But the fact that this speech comes at this moment, it was so much more impactful, I think, in the actual play, even though I still felt it a lot in the animated version. But man, did it hit me. We also got to see Liam's reactions at the table while this conversation is happening, which I found to be quite fun, quite cheeky. And that is the thing where I have been watching it, and while I'm not always looking at the screen, anytime something crazy is happening, I am locked into the screen. And I'm so happy that I'm doing that, because I would miss, I think, a lot of the visuals. And it's not just about the people that are even doing something at the time, it's also about the players at the table that are not doing anything at the time, who are having their own thoughts about what's going on. That is a delight. I also love all of the little secret moments that we get where Matt sends everyone else away and it's just one or two characters at the table with him, and all the whispering. Man, I want more whispering in my role-playing games. I need people to whisper more. It just creates such a fun vibe. I just love that there is information that some people are privy to and others aren't, and they get to choose what they share, and there's a level of trust that people have to buy into. And seeing those bonds form, it makes them more important as we go through, and as there are secrets that are going to be revealed, and there are going to be secrets that people will choose to keep hidden, but they have their reasons. Watching these characters come together and bond, watching them go through their first kind of major fight, I would say, where it seems like Nod is considering, are we with the right group? But also at the same time, everyone's still choosing after that to remain together and trust one another. It's really beautiful, and I really love how it represents the bond of friendship between this entire group. It's not just about the characters or the story, it really is about the players and their relationships and their connection to each other that makes the story so magical. Mainly, that's what I wanted to say about this. I mean, there's so much more that I could say, not pretending to be Ford, a little mini Ford, basically Ford's younger brother child with the yuck. I loved that part. The fact that Caleb's cat, at one point, Frumpkin, gets destroyed with one kick from an NPC is so sad. And then Caleb, of course, has to bring Frumpkin back. All of that stuff is really fun. So there's so many fun moments. There's so many heartbreaking moments. And there's just so much excitement. And it's crazy to see the story play out in this way, where now, because I've watched the animated series, I know what's going on with, this artifact that they've come across, that they find is very mysterious. They don't know what it is. We know everything when we're watching the animated story, and getting to watch the players discover the story little bit by little bit as Matt's feeding it to them, and as Matt's trying to guide them in directions at times, and they're distracted by things. The fact that Matt kind of puts this history into a book that they almost didn't buy was amazing to me. Like, Caleb wants to see this and then is like, no, I'm not going to buy that. And then only because Jester decides to buy this dry but spicy book, like the spicy version of the Silmarillion, we get any of that history, which is vital. And Matt tried so hard to put it in a place where they'd want it, and then they still almost passed on it. It's so fun. It's so fun, and just the whole group together is a delight to watch. So I cannot wait to continue, and I think our next video probably won't take me quite as long. I will be back with more Critical Role soon. And please stay tuned as well for my reactions and my reviews from Vox Machina. That will also be coming up on the channel. If you want access to reactions, that's for members. And then I also have a Patreon you can check out where we put the full reactions, and I will be doing Vox Machina over there as well. That's all I have for this one. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, friends. Bye! Oh, and if you're also wondering why my voice sounds a little bit weird, I am a little sick, so please forgive me. I'm down to a dry cough, but yeah, my voice is a little weird. I have Ricola. I know I said that Matt Mercer can do it all at the beginning of my last video, but I think I finally found something that Matt can't do. Welcome back, everyone. We are here to talk about Critical Role. That's right, I am continuing on my Mighty Nein journey
with Campaign 2. This video is going to be focused on episodes 14 through 18. Right now, I'm kind of just doing every time the group levels up, I come back, I keep some notes, and I come here to have a little chat with you about how it's going for me so far and what my thoughts are on it. As someone that has played D&D and someone that watched Mighty Nein, the show, and loved it. So let's get into what happened in these episodes. Before we get into this, I want to know, what kind of dungeon master is your favorite? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you're a dungeon master, let me know what type of playstyles you like. I want to start off by acknowledging the elephant in the room, I guess. Yeah, Matt Mercer can't do it all. That's right, I said it. There are things that Matt simply cannot do, and that is play Jester, apparently. I think that maybe no one can play Jester, though, other than Laura Bailey, because as time is going on, I am seeing what a lot of you in the comments have been saying, that Laura Bailey is Jester. This seems to be correct. So in episode 14, Laura was sick, and so she couldn't come to the table. She was at home. She was watching and she was texting, and sometimes she would weigh in and let people know, like, I want Jester to be doing this, and then they would do that in the game. But for the most part, Matt did his best. I'm sure he was trying to play Jester, but the reality is she's pretty hard to play if you're not Laura Bailey. I think Liam actually did a pretty decent job with her voice and an attempt, but what I learned is, no one can play Jester because Laura Bailey is just Jester. It's just Laura Bailey with a little bit of a weird voice and blue. That's who Jester is. And I have to say, I do love Laura Bailey playing Jester, although I do feel like she's been struggling to play a cleric. And I think even though Jester is not the best cleric, I still love her dearly. But that was something that I really got a little frustrated with in these episodes, is there are moments like when we are on that mission for the gentleman and we're with the party and they're going through, and Jester just really doesn't prioritize healing enough as a character, as a cleric, and also seems to be very wary of using the health potions, because I understand they are expensive, but also, like, girl, if you're not going to heal people, we need to use health potions, and especially if you're in danger as the healer, you need to drink those health potions. Drink them now. However, I will say that by around episode 17, I felt that Laura Bailey was really getting better playing a cleric. And in the victory pit, I thought she actually did a really good job of balancing sort of the party's needs with also making sure that she is making an impact physically in the fight as well. She's such a cool character too, Jester, because she's so strong, but she's also a healer. So I love that she's like muscles, but also like, let me just heal your mind. Just talk to me. I can make you feel better. Mentally. Nothing untoward going on. Oh, that was a good moment when she was trying to offer assistance of, I'm a good healer and, I could make you feel better. And maybe you should see me and then I can make you feel better. I have skills and I'm very good at that. I was like, my goodness. Everyone else in the party is losing it because they can hear how it sounds. We can all hear how it sounds. However, while I love Jester, I think I must maintain that Sam Riegel is my favorite so far. Not is just so good. And Sam is my favorite style of player because when I play games, I'm not much of a min-maxer. I'm more of a, what would my character do in this moment? And I do it. And whether or not it's the best choice at the table, I always try to stay true to who the character that I'm playing is. But for me, just when someone stays true to the character, even at the risk of doing something kind of dumb, even as a player knowing this might be kind of dumb, but my character would do it, that is my favorite thing. That is my bread and butter. So, episode 15, I feel like we saw a lot of that with Sam is not, but honestly, all of the episodes were absolutely delightful to watch Sam in. But I really loved when they went on their little dungeon delve for the gentleman. Everything Sam was doing was great as not. And I also loved even when they met the gentleman
And, you know, Matt is playing the ogre who works for the gentleman. And the party convinced Not to go over and talk to the ogre. And so Not just tries to she tries to make a joke and it just doesn't land because it goes right over the ogre's head. Oh my gosh, I was dying. Sam cracks me up like no other. Also, I wanted to point out, we talked about this earlier on in my sort of Critical Role journey. Back when I was watching Mighty Nein, the animated series, and I first started getting into all of this, kind of opening up into more Critical Role content, I was talking about how I felt in the show there were moments where it seemed like Not had a disadvantage because she was drunk. And so Sam was rolling at disadvantage for Not, and that's why some crazy things happened. And people were telling me, actually, that's not the way it really goes. And there were some people that were even saying, like, Sam doesn't usually even get disadvantage as Not because that's just not a thing that comes up, that there's no real disadvantages just because Sam is choosing to drink as Not. However, in episode 15, we did get a disadvantage for Not. Not did get drunk, and I saw that Matt, you know, basically made that a disadvantage roll and acknowledged that that was happening. And I actually love the way this was handled because I think it's hard when you give someone a disadvantage like that, that's like a status effect, to give it to them and have a player really take it in and not feel like it's a punishment. But I love that Sam is so like comfortable in the character that he's playing and is aware of what he's doing, that Matt just basically approached it in episode 15 by asking, you know, like, how intoxicated are you? And Sam answered the question honestly as Not, like, this is basically where I'm at. And then, you know, Matt was like, okay, well then I feel like you should probably like roll at disadvantage because the booze is probably affecting you a little. And Sam just was like, okay, yep. I was like, this was handled so well. Like, you can tell this is a group of friends who really just care about each other and respect each other. And that is so much of what is fun about watching them play the game together, honestly, is not just their relationship as the characters, but also like their relationship as players. It's really nice, and I really love it. This was also a really exciting time for us in terms of this campaign because we got a lot of crazy fights. And as I think I've said in a previous episode, I'm not usually much of a here for the combat type of player. I like to play through combat, but I don't find it to be the most interesting part of watching, I guess, like a D&D playthrough. But man, some of these fights were insane. The gelatinous cube, and then right after the gelatinous cube, we go from that in episode 15 where everybody's not doing well to a fight which also goes into episode 16 where we have to fight basically like a specter or a ghost, this haunting figure who can appear and disappear with no legs, who paralyzes our party. I was like, if you're watching this episode, if you're watching this fight and you don't know, this is live, so you don't know what's coming next. You don't know if there's going to be a next week. This would be so exciting. It would be such a nail biter because I was nervous, and I obviously know how many episodes there are at this point in the Mighty Nein campaign. I mean, it's been like 8 years or something. So it was wild to watch that fight and just really feel myself pulled in. It was very exciting. And I think this is a thing that I want to compliment Matt on. And I know I joked at the beginning of the video, you know, we found something Matt can't do, but I want to take a moment here to just acknowledge how much I love Matt as a dungeon master because he really is so good. Not just his ability to give us a very colorful and nuanced cast of NPCs, which he plays all of them so well and makes them so unique from one another. He's not afraid to challenge them. And that was something that I really saw in episode 16 that I loved. And even spilling into episode 17 and 18 when we get to the victory pit. I mean, the victory pit was wild. The creatures that they were forced to face was absolutely insane. I was so impressed. Also, watching Matt throw these things at them and watching them really try to figure out as a group how to come together as a team, watching these other teams competing in the victory pit, these other NPC adventuring parties, and trying to learn from them a little bit as they went. Like, maybe we need to have like some kind of routine or some kind of setup or like some cool team up moments. It was really cute. And I love that Matt's ability as a dungeon master makes the party in turn stronger. Also, the party is stronger because guess who returned in these episodes? My girl Yasha is back. And I feel like Ashley is continuing to evolve this character in such a fun way. Like, there's so much more to her that I'm learning. She's so shy, and I think I really love that about Yasha. And Ashley is also getting better at playing a barbarian, which is really fun to see. I mean, she used her rages. She was remembering a lot of her moves here. Granted, she did use a lot of her rages at the festival during the festival games. And then when we got to the victory pitch, she was like, I have one rage left, guys. I did use a lot of my rages to arm wrestle. But honestly, it was all worth it. And I loved watching them do all the games. I think winning the little doll was one of my favorites. With the bow and arrow. It was so fun. And not being like, can't I just use a crossbow though? I have this crossbow. Very much alarming, the man that was running that game. That poor man. Then, of course, we have Caleb's story, which got very deeply emotional. We got the Caleb origin story, which, as someone that watched Mighty Nein Season 1, I knew it was coming. I was expecting it. And it still hurt. It always hurts to watch it. I think I saw a clip where Liam was saying that anytime he revisits that story, watching it in the Mighty Nein in the animated show and voicing it, it always hits for him. And I can understand why that is. It's such a tragic and such a moving backstory. It's so sad. And what I really loved about it is we get this beautiful moment between Nott and Caleb, because Caleb is revealing this origin story to obviously get into the Kobold Soul library with Bo. And so he's revealing the story to Bo of why he's afraid of fire, which is his origin. And he asks Nott to stay while he tells this to Bo because he feels that it would be inappropriate for him to reveal this to Bo and not to Nott. Nott, who has been with him, since the beginning of this adventure, who really, I love Nott and Caleb because they are one another's ride or dies in this adventure together. And it's really beautiful. And I love how when Caleb reveals all of this, of what happened to his parents and everything he's done, Nott responds by saying, what you did was bad, but it is not your fault. And I know that you feel that you have a responsibility for this and that you need to fix this and you need to atone. And I know you blame yourself. And I love that Nott basically just says, I'm never going to leave your side and I'm going to keep reminding you until one day you believe it too. But Nott acknowledges that, Caleb wasn't entirely to blame for this. And so Caleb needs to forgive himself. And honestly, the only way that you can ever move forward in life, the first thing that you often need to do in those scenarios is forgive yourself. And I just thought it was so moving and so real, to be honest. At the end of this part of the campaign, we're in a really interesting place with our adventuring party too. War is coming, and our group of heroes is now trying to decide what they want to do. Do they want to go the way of law and order and potentially take Arentha's offer? Do they want to go the way of maybe some crime, maybe some chaos, and take the gentleman's offer? Or do they want to do what they've kind of been saying, especially what Molly has been saying up to this point? Do they want to maybe just get out of here because the water's getting a little hot and maybe it's time for them to go somewhere else? What I know is if we leave Zadesh, I am going to miss it. It has been such a fun time. And honestly, it was really starting to feel like home. And I'm going to miss Pumat. I'm going to miss the Pumats. At the same time, though, I love where we're at right now with the campaign. We just leveled up, so we're about to enter level 5, which I think is when in 5e things get really fun for your characters in terms of what you can do, in terms of your skill set, in terms of how you can affect the world around you, what you can do in fights. But then the other thing is, we're also at a place where we're at a crossroads where really it's not just about our individual characters deciding who they are, but it's about the group deciding what they want to do together and really deciding what kind of adventuring party they want to be as kind of a little traveling family. So that's very exciting to me. And I think whatever path they choose, I'm very excited to see the journey. I love how Matt is giving them all these choices and they're just like, oh, I don't know, we might go do our own thing. And he's really like, okay, well, I guess,
You don't want to do the thing with Arentha and the Hawker. And they're like, what's the Hawker? Wait a minute. Maybe we do want to do it. It's just, as a DM, you're looking at all the plans that you made for your group, that any of the paths that they could take. And when someone says, no, I don't want to do any of that. And you're like, I made so much cool stuff that you'll never get to see. What did I make this for? I'm curious to see what they're going to do. They have a week to decide, and they've technically already decided because, like I said, we're watching this way in the past. But anyways, I have talked long enough about this. I just wanted to share with you kind of where I'm at so far in the campaign. I am still absolutely loving it, and I cannot wait to see what happens next and find out who will have the most tragic backstory, because at this point, it honestly seems like all of them are pretty awful. I'll see you in the next one, and until next time, friends, stay nerdy. Bye! And if you love hearing me talk more about D&D and Critical Role, you need to check this out.